There comes a point in every relationship when you realize that no matter how hard you try, there are walls around her heart that you can no longer break through. But what are these walls, and how do you know when they're too high to scale? In this video, you will uncover the 6 walls that are slowly but surely growing between you and her heart. These aren't obvious walls. They are subtle, hard to detect at first. But by the end, you'll know exactly what emotional detachment looks like and how to recognize the signs that a relationship is slowly drifting beyond repair. The more you ignore these walls, the deeper they will grow. If you don't act now, the emotional distance will only widen, and one day you might find yourself locked out forever. Every silent moment, every wall built, is one step closer to losing her for good. Recognizing these walls early could be the difference between saving the relationship or letting it crumble without ever understanding why. Don't wait until it's too late. Let's uncover these silent barriers now before they become unscalable. The wall of emotional withdrawal. Think back to the days when the emotional connection between you two felt effortless. Conversations flowed naturally, laughter came easily, and there was always that spark of excitement when you were together. But now there's a noticeable shift. She's withdrawn. She's less open with her feelings, less eager to engage, and the deep, meaningful conversations you once had have become sparse. It feels like something's missing, but you can't quite pinpoint what it is. This emotional withdrawal is the first wall that's being built around her heart. It's subtle but powerful. When she stops sharing her thoughts, fears, and dreams with you, it's a sign that she's pulling back emotionally. This shift often happens when someone feels disconnected or no longer believes in the emotional safety of the relationship. She may no longer feel the need to be vulnerable with you, or doesn't feel that same emotional closeness anymore. The withdrawal could stem from hurt, frustration, or a loss of connection. She might not know how to articulate what's changed, but emotionally, she's retreating. Every word she holds back, every silence that lingers between you, is a brick in this wall. In Stoicism, the idea of emotional detachment is central. The Stoics valued self-control and emphasized the need to withdraw inward when faced with emotional turmoil. She may be practicing a form of self-preservation, retreating into herself to avoid further emotional strain. This wall isn't necessarily about you. It's about her need to regain control over her heart, to shield herself from potential hurt or vulnerability. When she withdraws emotionally, it's as if she's putting her heart in a cage, locking it away where you can no longer reach it. The more you push, the more she retreats behind the bars of silence and distance, and with each step back she takes, the harder it becomes to break through. The wall of repressed needs and desires. There was a time when she would openly share her wants, needs, and desires with you, whether it was something small, like a gesture of affection, or a grand vision for her future. You felt connected to her in those moments, as though you truly understood her heart. But now, there's a shift. She's silent. She doesn't express her needs anymore. There's no mention of her hopes, her desires, or what she's craving emotionally. It's as if her voice has disappeared, and you're left in the dark, wondering what's going on inside her heart. This silence is a wall made of unspoken expectations, a defense mechanism she's built to protect herself. When she stops voicing her needs, it's often because she no longer believes they will be met. She's learned to stay quiet because expressing her desires may seem futile or even risky. She might feel that speaking up will only lead to disappointment or cause conflict that she doesn't want to deal with. The result is a wall made of repressed emotions, where her true desires are locked away, hidden behind a facade of indifference. By silencing her needs, she creates emotional distance, retreating from the very act of hoping. The absence of communication about her desires is her way of shielding herself from hurt, a way of saying, "If I don't ask, I won't be let down." Stoic thought teaches us to remain indifferent to things beyond our control, to focus on what we can influence. However, in relationships, emotional needs must be expressed and communicated. The silence around unmet needs often signals a form of emotional surrender. It's a withdrawal from the expectation that anyone will fulfill them, a silent acceptance that these needs may never be addressed. Her silence is a way of emotionally retreating, withdrawing her hopes as a shield against further disappointment. As the walls grow higher, her desires remain locked away, buried in silence. She's no longer telling you what she needs because she's convinced that it's easier to suffer in silence than to hope for change. And the longer this wall stands, the harder it becomes to ever break through it and reconnect with the woman you once knew. The wall of emotional resignation. Her tone has shifted. It's subtle but unmistakable. She used to speak with excitement and curiosity about the time you spent together, but now something's different. There's a sense of resignation in her voice, a quiet acceptance that wasn't there before. She's not angry or upset. In fact, she's calm, but her words now carry an air of indifference, almost as if she's simply going through the motions. When she looks at you, her eyes don't sparkle with the same warmth or affection. They're dull, tired, and distant. The energy that once connected you both seems to have faded into the background. This emotional resignation is a wall that signals she has given up on the relationship, or at least on a part of it. The fire that once fueled her passion for the connection has dimmed. She's no longer fighting for the relationship, no longer invested in working through the challenges or celebrating the victories. Instead, she's emotionally checked out. This wall doesn't stem from anger or frustration. It comes from the quiet acceptance of a reality that she no longer wants to change. She's made peace with it, whether consciously or not, and that peace has taken the form of emotional withdrawal. This resignation often happens slowly, as small disappointments and unmet expectations accumulate over time. It's not always dramatic. It's more of a gentle fading. She may still be physically present, but emotionally she's no longer engaged. In Stoic philosophy, the concept of accepting things beyond our control is central. The Stoics teach us to recognize when we've reached the limits of our influence and to find peace in accepting those things. In her case, she may have accepted that the relationship is no longer serving her needs or emotional well-being. This resignation isn't about anger. It's about coming to terms with the fact that the relationship, as it once was, no longer brings her fulfillment. This wall, built from unmet expectations and fading hope, signals a shift in her emotional landscape, a shift you may have missed until it became too obvious to ignore. Her resignation isn't a loud protest, it's a quiet surrender. And as she lets go, the wall between you thickens, leaving you to wonder if you're too late to save what was once thriving. The silence grows, and with it, the fear that the chance to rekindle what was lost has already passed, the wall of disinterest and apathy. Think back to the days when she was fully engaged in your life. She was curious about your thoughts, eagerly made plans for your future together, and shared her dreams and opinions freely. But now something has changed. Her responses feel distant, as if she's simply going through the motions. She no longer asks about your day, your thoughts, or your aspirations. The spark of interest that once connected you is slowly fading, replaced by a sense of indifference. The conversations that once felt meaningful now feel hollow, and the connection that once seemed unbreakable seems to be dissolving into apathy. Disinterest is a powerful wall, one that forms when the relationship no longer excites her, when it no longer holds the same emotional significance. This is not just a matter of her not trying hard enough. It's an emotional flatline. When she stops caring about your life, your thoughts, or your dreams, it's a sign that her emotional investment has shifted. This wall isn't just built from neglect. It's constructed from the realization that the relationship no longer holds the meaning or passion it once did. She may have emotionally checked out, no longer seeing value in the connection she once cherished. Disinterest often creeps in slowly, first in the little things, like fewer questions or less enthusiasm for your plans. And then, over time, it takes over entire conversations. At some point, the emotional distance becomes impossible to ignore. The Stoics emphasize living in harmony with your true nature and values, understanding what truly matters to you. If she's no longer interested, it's likely because the relationship no longer aligns with her core needs or desires. The wall of disinterest is her attempt to create emotional space, to withdraw from something that no longer serves her well-being. In Stoic thought, this is the process of seeking alignment with what brings peace and fulfillment, and when a relationship no longer fits into that vision, emotional detachment is the result. The walls of indifference don't scream, they quietly settle in, until you're left trying to reach someone who's already emotionally checked out. And no matter how hard you try, the more you push, the more she pulls away, leaving you wondering how long it will take before you become a stranger to each other. The wall of rejection and fear of vulnerability. Remember when you and she could lean on each other, sharing your fears, dreams, and deepest feelings? Vulnerability was a part of your connection, an emotional bond that seemed unbreakable. But now, when you try to get close, something has changed. There's a subtle yet firm resistance. She keeps you at arm's length, rejecting your attempts to open up emotionally. The warm, open conversations are gone, replaced by guarded responses or uncomfortable silences. It feels as though the closer you get, the further she pulls away, creating a space between you that grows harder to cross. This wall is built from a deep-seated fear of vulnerability. Perhaps she has been hurt before, by you, by someone else, or by the past. And now she is afraid to let her guard down. The emotional distance you feel isn't about your love for her. It's about her inability to trust, to be open, or to feel safe enough to let someone see the real her. Every attempt to get closer feels like an intrusion, and she rejects it not because she doesn't care, but because the idea of being emotionally exposed is too painful. She may have retreated into this fortress to protect herself from further heartbreak. Her rejection isn't an attack, it's a defense mechanism, a way to shield herself from the vulnerability that once made her feel exposed. She has built this wall not out of indifference, but out of self-preservation, trying to avoid the emotional scars of past pain. In Stoicism, emotional control is central to inner peace. Yet even the most stoic individuals struggle with rejection when it signifies a lack of emotional safety. Her fear of being vulnerable means that no amount of reasoning or external efforts can break through this wall. She is trying to protect her peace, her emotional equilibrium. The Stoic understanding here is that sometimes we must accept that people create walls for their own survival, and those walls are not always ours to tear down. Every time you try to break through, the wall grows higher and her rejection becomes sharper. Her heart is now a fortress, and the more you try to tear it down, the more she locks herself away from you. The harder you push, the more impenetrable the wall becomes, leaving you to wonder if you'll ever be able to reach her again. So far, we've explored 6 powerful walls that can slowly grow between you and someone you love. Emotional withdrawal, repressed needs, emotional resignation, disinterest, rejection, and fear of vulnerability. These walls are not always visible at first, but over time, they create an undeniable emotional distance. They are the subtle signs that something within the relationship has shifted, often in ways that are difficult to confront. Recognizing these walls is crucial because without understanding them, it's easy to ignore the growing gap between you two. But now, you have the awareness to see these emotional barricades for what they truly are. Each of these walls tells a story, one of emotional struggle, fear, and unspoken pain. And as painful as it may be, acknowledging their presence is the first step in understanding the reality of the relationship and how it has evolved. In Stoicism, there is a profound emphasis on accepting the things we cannot change. Relationships, like everything in life, are fluid. They grow, they evolve, and sometimes they come to an end. Not all walls can be torn down, and not all relationships are meant to be saved. The Stoic wisdom here is about recognizing when to act, when to fight for what matters, and just as importantly, when to let go with dignity. Respecting both your emotional needs and hers is crucial for both healing and personal growth. Take a moment to reflect on your own relationships. Are you facing similar walls? Are you emotionally withdrawing, or perhaps you're feeling distant, rejected, or afraid of opening up? Recognizing these walls in yourself and others is the first step to either addressing them or making the difficult decision to move on. Share your experiences in the comments below. Subscribe for more emotional insights and continue to explore how we can better understand ourselves and the relationships that matter most. Sometimes, the hardest part of love is recognizing when it's time to stop fighting for a heart that no longer wants to be reached. Accepting the walls is the first step toward healing for both of you.